Hey everyone, Mr. Pally here. Today we're going to be going over how to graph our data. So a few days ago, we worked on the pasta bridge experiment, so where we use different amounts of pasta to test how strong of a bridge we could make. In ways that the way that many of us measured the strength of that bridge was to put increasing amounts of water into a cup suspended by that bridge. So once you've completed that experiment, you're going to be moving on to graphing our data. So today we're going to be graphing the data we collected and then using that to observe trends and make predictions. So this is an example of some of the sample data that you may have collected, where we had 3 trials and calculated an average. And we in my demo, I tested it with my bridge with 1 piece of pasta, 3 pieces of pasta, and 5 pieces of pasta. All right. So I'm going to show you how to make a graph of this data using just 2 pieces of lined paper, a pencil, and something straight. So a ruler is great. If you don't have a ruler, just find any straight object. I just found this little piece of metal around. It's the side of a book. Anything will really do. So first thing we need to do is turn this piece of line paper into a piece of graph paper. So the easiest way to do that is to take a second piece of paper that's identical to the first one that we're writing on. Just fold it in half. Well, even before we fold it in half, actually. Oh, actually, yeah. Let's fold it in half. Fold it in half this way. So you're going to fold it in half like this. And just try to get everything to line up if you can. Like that. Okay, so we're going to use this to make our grid. So I'm just going to quickly make a dot line it up with our paper here. I'm going to make a dot at the top and the bottom of this piece of paper. If you have graph paper already, that's great. You can just go ahead and use that. I know most of us, including myself, don't always have graph paper on hand, so this is kind of a handy way to make your own graph paper. So I'm just putting a dot at the top and bottom of each line that I fold in. And this is how I'm going to know where to draw my vertical lines. All right, so using this, I am going to use the edge of this book, and I'm just going to start drawing my lines. Try to be as neat as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the neater it is, the easier it is to read your graph and label your points. I'll go this way just to avoid smudging because I'm using pen. You might want to use pencil because it won't smudge, but since I'm using pen, I'm just gonna go this way. Oops, that's all right. Remember, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Line up those dots, connect, line them up, connect. I know it feels tedious, but you can get this done in under 2 minutes. Almost done here. Okay. Oh, just do one more. All right. So now we've got our graph paper. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a title here. So we're looking at the effect of number pieces of pasta on bridge strength. That's going to be our title. And now I'm going to label my axes. So the axis that runs across from left to right, that's our x-axis. I'm going to put an x here. Put a y-axis label here. It goes from bottom to top. I'm going to label these axes. So on the bottom, we were going to put our independent variable of what we were changing over time. So what we were changing is the number pieces of pasta. On the y-axis, we're putting our dependent variable of what we were measuring. So what we're measuring is amount of water. And I measured mine in cups. But if you use a different unit, you would put whatever unit you use to measure your values, your dependent variable. All right, I'm just going to put a line here so I know where my graph starts. Use this line as my starting line. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and label our values. So since I measured mine in amount of cups I can hold, according to my data table, our range is from 1/2 to 3, so I'm going to go up by 1/2 cup increments. So we're going to start at 0 at the bottom, and then 0.5 is the decimal form of 1/2, so I'm going to go 0.5, then 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, 5.0. So we went a little above 3. That's okay because we're actually this is gonna come in useful when we want to make predictions about our data. Additionally, we went from 1 through 5 here, but we want to give ourselves a little extra room so we can make predictions about what would happen if we added more pieces of pasta. So I've got about 2, 4, 6, 18. So I'm going to go by 1/2 increments as well. So we're going to start off with skip 1, and then this is going to be 1, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 3, skip 1, 4, skip 1, 5, skip 1, 6, skip 1, 7, skip 1, 8, skip 1, 9. All right. So next step is go ahead and plot our points. So for me, we're going to be using, well, actually all of us will be using not the individual trials, but you're going to be using this average. So if you had difficulty calculating this average, have questions about it, check the first lesson on setting up the bridge experiment. There's a video that shows you to calculate an average. But essentially what you need to do is add up your 3 trials and then divide by the number of trials we have, which was 3. So when you add up these 3 numbers and divide by 3, you're going to get 0.66. So the first plot I'm going to point is 0.66 along my y-axis and 1 along my x-axis. So I'm going to go to 1 here and then go to 0.66, which is between 0.5 and 1, and 0.6 is closer to 0.5, so I'm going to draw my point about right there. All right, next I'm going to do 1.66 and 3. So I find 3 along my x-axis. Now I'm going to go up to 1.66, which is going to be in between 1.5 and 2, closer to 0.5. That goes right there. Finally, at 5 pieces of pasta, we had an average of 3 cups. That one's going to be easy to plot. So I go to 5, I go up to 3, draw my point right there. Great. Okay, so now we've plotted the 3 points that we've had from our data. The next thing we're going to do is draw our trend line. So what you need to do for a trend line is get a straight object. I'm going to use this little piece of metal, a ruler, or anything else is fine. And what you want to do is you want to draw a line that goes through the points. It doesn't have to touch every point. You probably can't even touch every point, but you want to be as close to as many of the points as you can be, and that follows the direction that the points are going in. So it looks like some of these points are a little higher and some of them are a little lower than a straight line, so I'm going to try to make my line somewhere in the middle there. All right, so that's my trend line. It goes through what I think is the middle of all those points, and it's a straight line. You don't want to connect those points. You want one straight line to go all the way through. This is what we call a trend line. All right? So once you've gotten that, I want you to use your trend line to graphically estimate if we added more pieces of pasta to our bridge, say we added 7 or 8 or 9, how many cups of water could that new bridge hold? Right? We didn't actually do that in our experiment, but we can use our graph here to make a prediction. All right, so make sure to take a photo of your completed graph and your answers for your predictions in the exit ticket for this assignment. All right, thank you.